It's a good feeling right now to see the team, play that way, and it started on defense, how we guarded them in the first half, and the numbers, reflected that. I thought we had great energy and getting deflections, generating stops, and then that probably didn't put as much pressure on our offense. And we had a lot of guys playing well and contributing, and to have 5 guys in doubles and 2 guys with 8. Have 24 assists on the 32 field goals were great numbers for us on offense, and then the way we shot the 3. So very, very happy with our offense and our defense in the first half.
What do you think of the way Trey guarded Gary Payton?
I'm excited for Trey, and that's a big step for him. And we've given Jerry a lot of tough assignments, and I think that we need to focus on guarding the guy at our position, and we're going to try and do that more throughout the rest of the year. And Trey was happy that he got the call on him. He said that to me after shoot around, and he accepted the challenge, and that's where his focus was. He knew that he had a responsibility to guard arguably the best player in the league right now, and a veteran guy, and he did a great job on him. He had a lot of help. I thought our help side defense was good at shutting down some lanes and not giving him a lot of areas to drive into. And then our ball screen defense was also solid. But I'm happy for Trey. It also freed up Jerry to not have, to guard, the best perimeter guy, and then, he turns out and has a very good offensive game, so it worked out well.
Is there any particular reason why you decided just to have them guard their position?
I want Trey to take another step, defensively, and want to guard the premier guards if they're at his position. And he's established himself with his offense as one of the better point guards, and now he's got to do it at the other end. And it was nice to see him do that. And at the same time, I thought that let's take some heat off Jerry right now, and let's allow him to play the guy at his position, and then maybe he'd play better offense.
The players talked about change in practice as far as getting more intensity from the immediately start practice. What was behind that? Or?
It was just a thought. When you struggle early in games, you second guess yourself. You wonder if you're doing all the right things. Are you talking about the right things with the players? And you examine your warm-ups. You examine your pregame speech. You examine, what's happening during the beginning stages of a game where you're not playing as well. So we want to avoid, droughts and putting ourselves in a deficit early in the game. And I just thought in practice to say, hey, let's try and play the first 20 minutes of practice at the highest level. And I don't know how much effect that would have or not have, but that's what we talked about.
After having such a big first half, how satisfying was it really to keep the pace and not have that natural letdown in the second half?
Well, I mean, we felt like we played well enough to put ourselves in a position that in this basketball game, our opponent shouldn't have had a sniff at getting back into the game. So when you play that well in the first half, you want to establish yourself early again in the second half, which we're able to build on our lead and then force Oregon State to continue to chase us.
Can you talk about keeping the guys' confidence up a little bit? I mean, they certainly didn't have the body language of the team that was 1-6 in conference coming in.
I think we feel and we believe that we're a better team than our record reflects, and there's nothing to change that at this point. But these guys answered a bell, and they, we've been competitive in every game we've played in the conference. It is demoralizing to lose close games and not be able to break through, but it's nice to have a confidence-building performance like we had tonight on offense, and hopefully that'll trigger additional momentum moving forward.
How big of an emphasis was guard rebounding, especially going up against Peyton? Because Trey had 6 rebounds and Jerry had 5 of them.
Yeah, that's a good point. We talked about that. That's probably one of the best things that Gary does is rebound from that position. And we talked about it. Those guys understood it. They saw it on the film, and they did a good job of keeping him off the board.
What are the 5 guys in double figures? What's that indicative of, just offensively?
I just think it's balance. It's shot distribution. I don't think we're you know, there could be games that Trey would take 15 shots if that's what the defense presents. But we're typically, we've talked more about being balanced, and that's what got us the great record in the non-conference with the caliber opponents we face. And it's something that hasn't always been there in some of the losses. So to see a lot of guys playing well and the shot distribution, you know, pretty balanced is a positive thing, and then the assist hole.
And Trey was really distributing the ball well, too.
Yeah, I mean, we watched the film. We showed Trey, you know, times that he could make the pass, and I think some of that is respect too. I mean, Gary Payton is one of the best defensive guards in the conference. I'm sure he has respect for his on-the-ball defense, and he knows, you know, that he may not always be able to break his guy down and get his shot. He was willing to find teammates.
You talk about Eric's defense, hedging on the ball screen and still being able to get back inside without fouling.
Yeah, it's underrated. You know we spent so much time talking about our defense this week and hedging ball screens. Like, do we need the way that we need them to? And you know, hedging ball screens doesn't show up in the stat sheet. You don't get points for that. So it's you know, it's something that guys don't always value, and we need to express how important that is to our defense. And they were for the most part good with that, especially in the first half. Not as much in the second half, but by then the game was already kind of decided.
Did you catch Michael Phelps in the curtain distraction?
That's the first time that I've seen the curtain distraction this year. You know, it was I couldn't pass up the opportunity to see that. It was he made a major contribution to the game tonight. It was one of the highlights of the night for sure.
What do you think of his outfit?
It was appropriate, you know, for his past and his history, and you know, the cool part of it is how much fun he had doing it. It looked like he enjoyed it, and our crowd fed off it, which was nice. You know, so we really appreciate him helping take 2 points off the board for us.